In what was called the golden age of sideshows, for many freaks, the circus wasn't just a job, it was home. A place where they weren't just accepted, but admired and usually earned a living. But that wasn't the fate for everyone. Some were pushed into the spotlight by inhumane parents or forced in by poverty itself. Others were called freaks before they could even speak up for themselves. And in today's video, we'll show you the strangest ones that actually existed. Let's begin this list with number 15, Anita. Anita, cruelly advertised on old circus posters as the elephant-faced girl, lived a life both extraordinary and tragic. Her facial deformity, likely caused by neurofibromatosis, made her features grow asymmetrically. Her skin thickened, and folds shaped her face in a way some compared to an elephant's trunk. But behind the makeup and crude headlines, Anita was calm, gracious, and strikingly kind. Promoters exploited her condition, twisting her story to sell tickets. She traveled with smaller sideshows across Europe and the US, where spectators came more to gape than to understand. Yet those who knew her recalled her warmth and quiet humor. She earned enough to live modestly and supported her family until illness took its toll. Anita's face made her famous, but it also locked her inside the very curiosity that sustained her career. She wasn't a monster, just a woman born different, surviving in a world that feared what it didn't understand. Number 14, the sapient porker. Toby wasn't just a pig, he was a performer. In the 1800s, pigs like him were trained to read, solve math problems, and obey spoken commands. It was not magic, but training. Toby stood out. His trainer ran a rotating cast since pigs grew fast, outgrowing their routines. Retired pigs were sent to farms, and new ones learned by watching. But one night, as the familiar music played and the act began, something unexpected happened. The old pigs, long retired, pushed open a gate, marched into the tent, and reclaimed their spotlight. They performed the entire routine flawlessly, nudging aside the young pigs. The audience roared. It wasn't just comedy, it felt like a reunion, a moment of loyalty, intelligence, and memory. Ricky Jay later wrote about pigs like Toby and learned pigs and fireproof women, cementing their legacy. Sometimes talent doesn't come from the stage. It waddles in from a nearby farm and steals the whole show. Number 13, Peter Lobengula. Peter was displayed like a sideshow act in a world that refused to see his humanity. He claimed to be the son of Lobengula, the last king of the Matabele, and in the early 1900s in England, he performed under the name Prince Lobengula. Crowds came expecting a spectacle, but found a proud man sharing culture under the shadow of colonial prejudice. Everything changed when he fell in love. His engagement to Florence Kitty Jewell, a white British woman, ignited a scandal that consumed the press. No one cared about the man, only the outrage. He later acted in small roles, even portraying his own father. But once the controversy faded, so did the opportunities. He spent his final years working in the Salford mines, far from the noise that once defined him. Peter wasn't a curiosity. He was a man caught between fascination and racism, remembered not for his awesome art, but for what the world couldn't bring itself to accept. Number 12, Arthur Lewes. Arthur was born with neurofibromatosis, which caused thick tumor-like growths to form across his body, especially his face. In 1933, at age 42, he stood inside Ripley's Auditorium in Chicago. His appearance shocked visitors. The growths hung in heavy folds, difficult to look at. But Arthur stood there anyway, letting the world see what others would hide. There was no cure then, no treatment, just stares and silence. But Lewes didn't hide. He entered the circus not for fame, but visibility. To be seen was power, to exist in front of a crowd instead of in shadows. He didn't beg for pity or present himself as an inspiration. He simply endured. He lived to be 97, last reported alive in 1991. Most of his story is lost to time. But the fact that he lived through nearly a century, under lights, behind stairs, inside a misunderstood body, speaks for itself. That quiet act of showing up, it takes more than strength. It takes courage. Number 11. Ernie Defort. Ernie was born with a parasitic twin attached to his chest. The twin, named Len, had partial limbs and a small face, creating the appearance of two boys emerging from one body. They shared a blood supply, but Len never developed into a functioning child. Sideshow promoters labeled Ernie the two-headed boy, or Ernie Len, turning his condition into a living attraction. He appeared at carnivals, drawing crowds torn between shock and fascination. His body made news, but it was his surgery that marked history. At 12, doctors made the bold decision to remove Len in what was then a dangerous and groundbreaking operation. Ernie survived. Afterward, he vanished from the public eye. Some say he married, lived quietly, and chose a life without outsiders watching. His time in the spotlight was short, but his case became one of the most documented instances of parasitic twins in America. All right, guys, now, time to move to Number 10. Mohammed Gazi. Mohammed Gazi reached an astonishing height, 7 feet 10 inches, during a time when medicine had no answers for what was happening to him. As a teen in Alexandria, he was average-sized, but in his late teens, his body transformed. Doctors later suspected a tumor on his pituitary gland, triggering uncontrolled growth hormone production. His bones stretched, his jaw and hands grew disproportionately, and he never stopped growing. By his 20s, he towered above everyone. Though circus promoters offered large sums, Gazi remained reserved, more private than a freak. He appeared in a few exhibitions, but shied away from fame. Daily life was difficult. Finding clothes, furniture, and even rest was a challenge. He passed away in 1941 at only 22 years old. Gazi's size made him rare, but his quiet perseverance made him unforgettable. A gentle soul trapped inside a body that never stopped expanding. Number 9. The original human skeleton. Before the circus, Calvin Edson was a Vermont veteran. He fought at the Battle of Plattsburgh in 1814, survived the war, but not the years that followed. Harsh exposure and chronic illness left him physically deteriorated. By adulthood, he stood 5 feet tall and weighed just 45 pounds. His skin clung so tightly to bone, it looked painted on. Doctors found no cause. He wasn't starving, just impossibly thin. In the 1820s, he entered the sideshow world as Jeremiah Thin, dancing in tight black outfits that exaggerated his frame. Posters called him the greatest wonder of nature. He earned steady pay, even as rumors spread. One paper claimed he'd been dissected and found to house a 14-foot tapeworm. Calvin kept performing. He married Rachel and raised 4 children, 2 of them deaf and mute. He died quietly, but his story didn't. It had already been distorted, exaggerated, and sold to crowds who never knew the man beneath the bones. Number 8. The eye smoker. Now this one's just plain strange. Born in Canada around 1885, Alfred Langan baffled doctors with a body no one could explain. They called him the eye smoker. He could insert a pipe, cigarette, or balloon nozzle into his eye socket and blow smoke or air out of his mouth. Not a trick. No sleight of hand. His sinus and tear duct system allowed airflow both ways. He once even played a recorder using his eye. Langan toured across North America, performing in circuses and sideshows. What started as a simple shock gag turned into a full routine. He married in 1909 and kept performing long after. Most didn't know whether to laugh or cringe. But Alfred wasn't chasing fame. He just wanted steady crowds and a paycheck. His name faded with time, but those who saw him never forgot. A man blowing smoke out of his eye sounds fake, but Alfred Langan didn't fake a thing. He made you look and believe like a real man. Number 7. The Seal Boy. Stannislaus Barren from Pittsburgh spent his life without fully developed arms. Folkamelia left him with short fin-like limbs, earning him the name Sealo. But what others saw as a limitation, he turned into a skill. He learned to shave, dress, eat, and even write with precision using custom tools he designed himself. Fluent, composed, and self-assured, Sealo joined America's top shows, from Ringling Bros to Hubert's Museum, and became a sideshow mainstay for nearly 3 decades. Off stage, he was soft-spoken, poised, and fiercely independent. Ward Hall once recalled Sealo's chimpanzee leaping to defend him after a drunk man insulted him. In 1972, he helped repeal Florida's outdated law banning disabled performers. 4 years later, he retired, leaving behind a career shaped by grace under pressure. He wasn't a symbol of pity or novelty. He was proof that dignity can't be taken. Sealo lived without arms, but never without pride. Number 6. Murderous Mary. Mary was a 5-ton Asian elephant with Sparks' world-famous circus. In 1916, her name became infamous after a chaotic parade stop in Kingsport. Red Eldridge, a drifter hired the day before, struck her near the ear with a hook as she reached for a watermelon. Witnesses said she flung him with her trunk, then crushed his head. Panic erupted. Newspapers demanded action. The next day, Mary was transported to Irwin, Tennessee. There, before 2,500 spectators, she was hanged using an industrial crane. On the first attempt, the chain snapped. Mary collapsed, injured and confused. The second attempt succeeded. A photo captured the moment, an elephant suspended mid-air. It still circulates online, often dismissed as fake. But it happened. Mary wasn't granted mercy. She wasn't granted understanding. She became a public warning. Her execution had nothing to do with justice, only vengeance, spectacle, and pressure from angry crowds. And just like that crowd, history still hasn't fully looked away. Number 5. Dandy George and Rosie. Dandy George, likely born Albert George Spink, was a vaudeville acrobat who built his reputation with a talented terrier named Rosie. In the 1890s, George toured with his brother under the act Spink and Spink. When that ended, he brought Rosie on stage. The dog danced, posed, and eventually became the centerpiece of the performance. By the early 1900s, Rosie held top billing in music halls across England. Their popularity grew, but backstage life wasn't as cheerful. In 1919, George was charged with cruelty involving another dog named Andy, hinting that Rosie's bright stage persona might have overshadowed a harsher reality. A short film made in 1927, titled Dandy George and Rosie, preserved the act, though the Rosie in it was likely a replacement. As vaudeville faded, so did George's name. Still, he belonged to a strange era where animals weren't just partners, they were fellow entertainers. And Rosie, original or not, danced into showbiz history and claimed her place in its spotlight. All right, now let's head over to number 4. Melvin Birkhart. Melvin Birkhart wasn't born into the sideshow like many others. He built his act from pain. A boxer from Atlanta, born in 1907, he suffered permanent nasal damage during a fight. Rather than hide it, he made it his signature. He created the human blockhead act, driving nails, spikes, and drills into his nose while smiling through the disbelief. But that was only part of his act. He could swallow swords, eat fire, contort his body, escape restraints, and captivate a crowd without shouting. He joined Mr. Leroy Easter's traveling circus in 1927, later performing with Ringling Bros, Ripley's, and even at the 1939 World's Fair. Years later, he became a fixture at Coney Island, where his name remains in the Hall of Fame. Melvin wasn't chasing shock. He mastered control. His body became the medium, his endurance the story. He was a real king. Number 3. The Double-Bodied Boys. Giacomo and Giovanni Battista Tocci were born in rural Italy sometime between 1875 and 1877. Conjoined twins joined at the lower spine. They had 2 hearts, 4 arms, and shared a single pair of legs. Each had its own internal organs, except for a shared lower digestive system. Doctors predicted a short life. Instead, they reached adulthood. Their father took them to Turin, then across Europe, and eventually to America, where they earned $1,000 a week touring the sideshow circuit. Giacomo preferred mineral water and conversation. Giovanni was quieter, liked beer, and often let his brother speak for both. They never walked, always carried or wheeled. When they clashed, they fought physically. They spoke multiple languages and eventually disappeared from the spotlight. In 1897, they bought a villa in Venice. Some said they married sisters. Others claimed they became reclusive. One story said they died in 1912, another in 1940. Whatever the truth, the Toccis defied science, spectacle, and every prediction ever made. Number 2. The Invulnerable Man. Arnold Garrett Henskes, better known as Miran Dejo, turned pain into performance and belief. In the 1940s, he stunned audiences by having swords pierced through his torso without bleeding or flinching. He claimed he learned it from Indian mystics, though he'd never set foot in India. What made Dejo unsettling wasn't just the act, it was his certainty. He used his performances to speak about unity, reject materialism, and describe pain as a spiritual journey. Doctors x-rayed him during the show. The swords were real, his body undamaged. Some believe he trained himself to develop internal scar tunnels known as fistulas. In 1948, he said voices told him to swallow a steel needle and have it surgically removed. He did. Days later, his aorta ruptured. He collapsed and died. People still debate. Was he enlightened or unstable? A mystic, illusionist, or something in between? Whatever he was, Miran didn't perform tricks. He performed a belief. Number 1. W.F. Doc Carver. W.F. Doc. Carver wasn't just a performer. He was a restless visionary with a hunger for danger. Once a frontier dentist, he moved west, met Buffalo Bill, and quickly proved he could ride and shoot like no one else. Contests, exhibitions, and outlandish stories followed, each one more extreme than the last. But his most reckless invention came later: the diving horse act. A horse leaping from a towering platform into a pool below. It sounded absurd until people saw it. The act became a nationwide sensation and would define the Carver legacy. After Doc's death in 1927, his son Al and daughter-in-law Sonora carried it on for decades. Even Hollywood took notice. But the original madness, the spark behind the leap, was his. Carver built something unforgettable from raw danger and pure showmanship. History reduced him to a circus footnote, but every dive still echoed with that original wild heartbeat. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for hanging with us. and we'll see you soon.